So with all of that out of the way, I would like to introduce Dave Brio, who is here with me today. We're really fortunate to have him here with us to share his insights and guidance. As you can see here, Dave has 24 years in the IT industry and has worked with a lot of different types of organizations, including the third largest law firm in DC and the DoD. He's helped small businesses all the way up to enterprise organizations with more than 500,000 employees. He has a degree in computer information systems and has certifications in Security Plus and Cybersecurity Analytics Plus. And he is recognized as a cybersecurity analytics professional. I've had the opportunity to work with Dave for quite some time now, and I am continued to be inspired by his passion for helping organizations keep their company's data, their employees, and their customers safe. So really excited to be presenting alongside Dave today. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to you, Dave.
Hey, thanks, Kim. I really appreciate that. That's pretty nice of you to say all that stuff. But anyway, Kim is a fantastic individual who we really enjoy having on the team. That's enough about that. Let's go ahead and get started here. You know, there are over 1 million attacks every day in the world, and in fact, in the last 30 days, there are over 4 million attacks in the healthcare industry alone. Now, how are all these attacks happening? Sorry about that. These numbers tell the tale. Really, if you look at, forget about people just trying to break into your systems through a firewall or anything. That really is a very, very small percentage. But if you look up at the top here, you can see the compromised, stolen credentials, and phishing attacks. That is more than 74% of the attacks that are perpetrated every day. Their favorite payloads are on the left over here: ransomware and malware.
That's right. So let's take a moment and dig into this a bit and talk about how employee credentials can lead to a breach. Here's a great visual that I think helps us understand how real and broad the risk can be. We're looking at 9 key functional areas of a business, from HR and payroll to email, purchasing, banking and finance, and so on. As you look through here, I'd like you to think about all of those places where your employees are going to perform their day-to-day job functions. All of those places where they're creating accounts and they're using their work email addresses and creating a password. Sometimes we can really be great at addressing threats on the network, but we can't ignore and forget about all of these third-party sites where employees are creating logins. We have to think about those external threats, and in doing so, I think we really have to ask ourselves some tough questions, right? Are we confident that employees are creating unique and hard-to-crack passwords for every single site that they're using? Can we be sure that they're not recycling passwords, or just as worse, adding that token character to at the end and thinking they're all good? Because this is where data on the dark web can come back and hurt your company. When these accounts are connected by common emails and passwords, when users are using the same or a variation of the same login credentials across multiple sites. So let's say, for example, I use Expedia to book my travel, and Expedia experiences a breach, and I'm using that same password on, let's say, Office Depot, where I have an account with a corporate card on file to make purchases. Or what if I'm using that password on the network? Once someone has a password to gain entry into your organization's network, they have the proverbial keys to the kingdom, right? And you can see how the potential damage dramatically increases from a single compromised username and password. As a really quick example, consider this story that a colleague came across a couple weeks ago. Through a dark web scan, an IT provider found dozens of passwords out on the dark web for a particular organization. And when reviewing that data with the client, the accounts payable person happened to be there and recognized one of the passwords from the old accounts payable person who had left it on a sticky note. Yes, a sticky note that indicated that the same password was used to log into the company's bank account. Well, right there on the spot at that meeting, they took that password and logged right into the company's Wells Fargo account and found that the old accounts payable person still had an active account. Keep in mind that this employee had been fired more than 2 years previous. The kicker was that in this case, the account had access to over $1 million cash in all, as well as lines of credit. Really good thing they tried that password on the Wells Fargo site before a hacker did, right? Even when a person is no longer at a company, they may still have those active accounts on third-party sites. Companies are usually really good at turning off permissions on internal sites. They can sometimes forget about those external sites that employees had access to. So, in this case, a dark web scan helped that company identify a vulnerability and avoid some pretty major losses. So you can see how just a single exposed email and password can have this domino effect that leads to lost revenue, downtime, damaged reputation, just a lot of potential for disaster when those bad guys get their hands on employee data. With the prevalence of data breaches and stolen employee data, I think we need to start thinking about security through the lens of what's referred to as the zero trust framework. This concept of zero trust is the acknowledgement and belief that everyone has been compromised. That if we ran a dark web scan, for instance, for all of the attendees on this webinar, for instance, every person on here would likely have something pop up. Within this framework, we can shift our focus to access management, right? Making sure that the right people have the right secure access and are working from the right machines with the right privileges. And at the same time, we're also monitoring for those compromised credentials and external threats. This framework lets us manage individual access to make sure that we don't have any team members accessing the network when and where they shouldn't, or logging into machines that they shouldn't have access to, or having privileges to sensitive data and applications that are beyond what's needed for their particular job. Establishing this cybersecurity framework really allows us to identify and address any gaps, but beyond that, zero trust allows us to work toward alignment with compliance laws also, which dictate how we approach security and access management. Because here's the thing, compliance and privacy are no longer optional, right? We're going to go into this into greater detail about compliance in a future webinar, but I think it's important to note here that we're seeing compliance regulations make their way around the world, and they're everywhere now. It started with the GDPR in Europe, which was that first main entry into making compliance mandatory, and now it's here in every state. California and New York have certainly set the bar high here in the States, with others likely to follow very soon. So cybersecurity is no longer this nice to have, it really is mandatory and something that businesses are required to do.
Okay, we saw earlier ransomware and malware really the biggest for deliverables, with the hacker's toolkit. And the threat's really growing. COVID's only been a real boon for cyber criminals out there. Phishing attacks have been on a consistent upward trajectory ever since the COVID-19 pandemic began. With over 600% increase in phishing attempts. Every business needs to be looking for ways that they can prevent these attacks from landing and keeping your people out of them and keeping your business out of them. A couple little things to look out for, as you see on this slide here. A fake email address. This one, everybody was really looking for the COVID-19 stuff, and you can see this is a fake email address right there, because it's cdc.gov.org, and I'm sorry, but that's not really what it is, okay? You can also see down at the bottom, it'll give you a link in the middle where the little hand is. So CDC Gov Coronavirus 2019 news sites HTML. They can hide a different link in that, so don't just go and randomly click on it. You got to go ahead and hover over it. We'll see in this next slide here that you also want to watch out for things that may seem familiar, like your IT staff of your company. Right here. This is a fake email address again, right up here. It's supposed to be from Miller Supply, but it's 2 N's instead of an N. And people look at it quickly. It can be from your IT guy. Hey, you got to go ahead and click here to finish something up. So these are just a couple examples. We got a few more. These are tremendous on how they're happening. If you can go ahead and move to the next one there, I think we got one more. There you go, Kim.
Yeah, so as Dave pointed out, phishing emails are getting increasingly sophisticated and tough to detect, but there really are some steps we can take to identify those scams. We've all been focused on good hygiene and washing our hands to decrease our risk to the coronavirus. What if we applied that same hygiene to our email? What if we trained employees to take at least 20 seconds to examine an email and really look for those telltale signs that Dave was pointing out? We know there are things that we can look for to help weed out the scams from the legitimate emails. Here's a list of some of the things to look out for. Definitely see if the message includes some super generic content or broad impersonal greeting. Always look closely at that email address, especially the domain. Consider if the message is trying to create this false sense of urgency, or maybe it's got some strong demands for action. Look really closely at that link before clicking. Just that simple mouse over can tell us if that destination looks legit or if it's steering us into a trap. Definitely put on that copy editor hat and look for any misspelled words, incorrect grammar, or maybe some weird messaging. Make sure that that site is secure before entering any sensitive data, and definitely think twice, maybe even 3 times before clicking on any attachments. Most computer viruses are spread through email attachments, so although an attachment may look important, it can have malware that can cause a whole lot of damage. I think so often we can be in a rush and distracted when checking email, but if we take just that 20 seconds to stop and look for these key things, it can save a lot of trouble and potential disaster down the road. We've got lots of examples and resources like this that you can use to help educate your employees on what to look for. It's these kinds of resources, as well as that ongoing security awareness training, that can really help change your employees' behavior, establish those good habits, and create that culture of security within your organization. We've focused already a lot on the fact that our employees, while often our greatest assets, can also be the weakest link in security. And I'm not talking about that rogue or malicious employee. I'm talking about the well-meaning employee who clicks the bad link or opens the bad attachment or uses the same password over and over and over again. We really need to empower employees to become that strongest link in security by training them to be vigilant and cautious. To really understand the need for, a solid security awareness program and a culture of security within your organization, we'd like to show you how easy it can be to launch successful phishing scams, since they're one of the easiest yet most effective ways that employee data is stolen. Phishing kits are available for purchase on the dark web, and cyber criminals, even those with minimal technical skills, can easily launch phishing campaigns using pre-made templates and step-by-step instructions. As part of those phishing kits, legitimate websites are cloned and the login page is changed to point to a credential stealing site. Here's a side-by-side example of the actual Facebook landing page and the landing page included in one of these phishing kits. It's nearly impossible to tell the difference, and you can see how effective it is. Most of us, probably including me, would be really hard-pressed to be able to tell the difference.
This cybercrime is really, really big business. It is even bigger than the drug trades out there right now. Everybody's getting in on the game. Here's just a couple of examples of live screenshots that were taken by our guys who really go in there and gather all this information for us and find out if your stuff is online. They've got to go to these dark web sites and check stuff out. So they're pretty much protected on their single-use computers because they have to go in there. You can't just, go on the web. You have to go in there through Tor, which is called the onion router, which really masks who you are, where you're at, everything else. Enough about that. But look, this guy here, he's even thanking his people. He's trying to put his best foot forward, and he's thanking his customers for purchases and return patronage. I mean, folks, this is how crazy it is. These guys are big business. They know it, and they are getting better at their craft every day. If we look at the next slide, this stuff is like eBay or Amazon for the bad guys. They even have, ratings. This guy's got a 5-star rating. How about that? And they've been shown to deliver high-quality goods and communicate well with their customers. Really? Yeah, that's how serious these guys are about getting your stuff. And our goal is to keep you out of it. You can see again, look, this is real stuff, folks. You can see right up the top here. He's giving a discount. Buy one, get one free. Okay, these guys want to make money on this. They may not be the ones out there perpetrating the crimes, but they're selling the stuff so that another guy can. Okay, and it's just insane of how this stuff goes. And Kim, I guess you want to go ahead and take the next one, so I think it's timely.
Yeah, that's right. Or how about this one, right? It's a huge election year, but not even our voter registration information is safe. Check out this product offering that includes the personal data of 1.8 million Kansas voters, including their names, addresses, dates of birth, and more. But it's not just limited to Kansas. Here's the same offer for lots of other states. And notice these prices, probably a little bit difficult to read, but $10,000 plus for these stolen credentials.
And, we can still go on here. They've got, 300 businesses. These are Californian business owners, and it's got even their credit scores in it. Folks, this is the stuff that is getting out there when somebody clicks on a bad link and your data gets breached. You probably won't even know it for a long, long time. Matter of fact, I was just reading the other day that the FBI a few years ago had said that there's two types of businesses out there. For the big cybersecurity conference, he said there's two types of businesses out there: the ones that have been breached and the ones who have not, or the ones who will be breached. A few months later, he was at another conference, and this was in Canada, and everybody figured, okay, it's going to be the same, speech again. However, he started a little bit different. He says there's two types of companies: the ones that have been breached and the ones that don't know it yet. So he's saying, he's an FBI guy who's in the cybersecurity wing, that, hey, it's out there. Everybody's been breached. You might not know it yet. This slide here goes on how they're taking ransomware from just locking your stuff up. Now they're extorting it. Okay, so they're going to make you pay one way or another. They're going to get their money out of it. Plus, they've got your data. They're still going to sell it. They're going to bleed you dry and keep going because you can't believe they're criminals. They stole it in the first place. Do you really believe them if they're not going to sell it again? Sorry about that. I get on a little rant sometimes, Jim.
No, that's good. That's all right. And speaking of ransomware, we've also seen this emergency of ransomware as a service, which shows just how I think sophisticated and turnkey some of these methodologies are. Ransomware as a service, of course, borrows from that software as a service or SaaS framework. For a subscription costing just a few $100 a month, cyber criminals can get a really nice branded platform to log into, such as what we're looking at here. They can add in all of the contacts and companies that they want to launch an attack against, and there are even pre-made templates ready to go. They essentially just sit back and monitor the attack through their dashboard. They can track who's opened, who's clicked the link, who's paid the ransom. This whole ransomware as a service is a really easy way to operationalize ransomware attacks for deployment on a really large scale, and it allows even the novice cyber criminal to launch attacks without too much difficulty. And then finally, if you're looking for a career change, the Dark Overlord is hiring, and he pays quite well. Here's an actual job posting from the dark web, and you can see that for just 10 years of experience and some innovative thinking, a cyber criminal can make a whopping $762,000 to start, and that increases to over $1 million in just 2 years. What I find so interesting and intriguing here is that there's a probationary period, performance reviews, just like a legitimate company, might have in place.
Okay, this is just something that you need to let your folks know. These are ways to protect your employees. And major events like the coronavirus pandemic create new opportunities for cyber criminals, and they're going to exploit it every chance they get. There's no such, they don't believe in wait till there's crisis. So any smart defense doesn't let them. And these tips can help you keep your systems and data safer in uncertain times. This is a resource that will be made available to you. But as you can see, look, you got to get the facts. Think twice before clicking. Be suspicious about anything that's sent to you as an attachment. As Kim mentioned before, look, if the boss said, hey, go ahead and send me this thing, in an email, and you go out or you go ahead and pay that bill or send him, reply to it with sending him this specific document. If your employee didn't check by making a simple phone call to the man, how do you know that it's really going to him? Or did that employee just send it out to somebody else? You got to be looking for that. You have to be on top of the current threats. You got to keep your eye on the bad guys. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Two-factor authentication is just so needed anymore. It's absolutely a necessity, and you have to be aware of strange networks that are out there. This resource is available to you on our website. I will be sending out a link to everybody in a follow-up email after this presentation. But again, folks, you have to make your employees. There's no such thing as an appliance or software that can go ahead and stop everything out there. Yeah, they're all necessary. We have to have those measures in place. However, nothing can stop the most vulnerable part of your organization, and that's your human factor. How about turning your employees into human firewalls? It'll only help. Anyway, I guess that really kind of wraps it up. I really hope you've enjoyed the webinar and found the information to be informative. You will receive a free dark web scan and a consultation. I will go ahead and contact each one of you and allow you to set up an appointment for a consult. Anyway, if your credentials are on the dark web, we'll let you know what they are, and proper measures you're going to have to take to go ahead and halt further breaches. All right. Again, we've got a lot of free resources for you on our website. I will be sending you links out to there. Kim, I guess that does it. I think we're pretty much right on time. We're a little bit early. That's fine.
Yep.
I think, we got one in the Q&A from Leonard. He says, I've always been curious as how dark web scans are performed. Is there a preset directory that an automated piece of software scans, or do you have to? No, there's not a scraper. There's not a preset piece of software. These are actually live people who go out and scan the stuff. There are some things, but they get blocked a lot, just like our firewalls and stuff block phishing and some phishing attempts and whatnot. They'll get blocked a lot, so they've got to actually be going out there and seeing what's available so that they can renew their scanners so that they can keep getting this information. It's just really tremendous on how that stuff happens. Kim, you got any other little tidbits that you may want to share?
Yeah, I hope we're and if we're not doing such a great job, or if you're asking something specific, certainly pop in a follow-up question. But generally speaking, we are monitoring an organization's top-level email domain so that any address that's found on the dark web that includes that company email domain is reported, so that we can follow up and provide that early alerting that is so incredibly critical. To do that, as Dave mentioned, we're leveraging definitely human and artificial intelligence that's scouring, botnets, criminal chat rooms, blogs, websites, bulletin boards. And while we do harvest data from typical hacker sites like Pastebin, a lot of our data, as he said, originates from sites that require credibility or a membership within the hacker community to enter. And that's where that team of analysts come in. They can assume the necessary credentials to get into those environments and gain access to additional data sets. So to that end, we monitor over 500 distinct internet relay chat room channels, 600,000 private websites, 600 Twitter feeds, and we run about 10,000 refined queries every single day. So those are some of the ways that we're getting access, and it is, I refer to it as a scan, and that's something, as Dave is offering here, a dark web scan that'll pull what's already out there. But the real value, the real service is in ongoing monitoring, 24/7, 365 monitoring, so that as soon as new credentials are found on the dark web, your provider is notified. They're able to follow up with their users and take the necessary precautions to hopefully avert any widespread data breaches or cyber incidents. So Leonard, I hope that kind of answers your question. So certainly let me know. Yeah. Oh, good. I hope that answers your question. If anybody else has any questions, pop them in that Q&A. We'd love to tackle them. We can also, talk offline if you've got some specific questions or a specific situation you'd like to discuss. But any other questions that you'd like to have us address?
Yeah,
that was a really good one.
Yeah, it actually was, but it just goes back, with the ongoing monitoring, just what the example that Tim told you about earlier with the guy with Wells Fargo. Rather than that being out there for 2 years, you'd know it within days at the latest. With the if it's out there, at that point you can do something about it. If it's out there for 2 years, who knows what's happening? And like the FBI says, there's two kinds of companies, the ones that have been breached and the ones that don't know it yet. This is really a passion of mine, folks. And this is the first of many that we're going to be having on here. I'm going to shortly be having a real quick webinar, probably next week. It's really about, what you're going to need to know before you send your kids back to school. And I'm going to have another one again, probably later in September, about developing your human firewalls in your company. So we all know that we've got the firewall down there. It's in the little corner and always active, and it's telling us what to do. There's been some trains of thought out there in the past that I kind of disagreed with. People saying, oh, you don't need an antivirus and anti-malware and this and that. It's like, well, I kind of feel that you do, because one can't do everything. So what I personally use 3. And that means I've got a better chance of stopping something. And I also have continuous dark web monitoring. Fortunately, I get notified immediately if something happens, or monthly, I'll get a clean bill of health. Say, hey, we haven't found anything new on the web for any of your domains. That really makes me feel good. Well, I guess that's it for the questions, Kim.
They're letting us off easy, Dave.
Yeah, they are.
Well, thanks so much, everybody, for attending this afternoon. Really do hope you found some value here. Definitely let us know if you have any follow-up questions or anything that pops into mind, but really appreciate you being here.
Again, we will get hold of you. We will go ahead and run the scans, let you get hold of you to set up time to have a little powwow about what you need, what's been found, and what you can do about it to prevent further damage. All right, folks, I guess with that, we can sign off here. I guess we're right about on time. Yeah, 1 minute over. That's not bad.